Hi folks, how are you doing today? Now we're coming into the lesson for chapter 7, lesson 7.2, which is about global markets. This is something that we've touched on before, that we're going to get into it a little bit more in detail in this lesson. I like this cartoon that I found on the internet, so I thought I'd put it there at the beginning so we could just get a good chuckle at it and get ready to actually talk about this topic here. This is actually Trump at the United Nations, and if you look underneath the cartoon, the cartoonist is Bruce Plant, and he works at the Tulsa World newspaper. The date of this cartoon is September 26, 2018, which was after Trump's visit to North Korea in June of 2018. And you know, at that point he was very proud of the fact that he had that visit and was able to talk to the leader of North Korea. So let's look at this cartoon. And Trump is saying, in less than 2 years, my administration has accomplished more than almost any administration in the history of our country. Now, he's standing in front of a podium for the United Nations. You see the emblem on the podium there. So it tells you where he's saying this at. In the back, you see, har, 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 yuck, 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 ha, 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 har, har. And what is great about this cartoon is that actually happened when he stated this at the United Nations. People in the audience laughed at him. He says, well, he wasn't expecting that reaction, but okay. So that was his comment to people laughing at him. Now let's look at the other side of the cartoon. This is obviously George Washington, and standing at the United Nations podium, and he says, but seriously, folks. So what do you think that the cartoonist is trying to say with this cartoon? Do you think he's trying to say that he agrees with Trump, that when he states that his administration has accomplished more than almost any administration in the history of our country? I noticed he puts in the word almost any administration in there to kind of back it off a little bit from being too much of a brag, but you know, that doesn't really help a whole lot. Or do you think that maybe the cartoonist is stating that he doesn't agree with Trump when he has George Washington over there saying, but seriously, folks? Because we got to think about what George Washington as the president of our country accomplished and compare those two presidents to see if that actually makes sense of what Trump was saying. So I thought this was a cute cartoon and one that we could relate to really well in this class. Okay, so this whole chapter is about economic globalization. Economic globalization is a process of creating an economy that connects countries on a worldwide scale. There are many parts to global economy, and we're going to look to several of them right here. Here's the first ones here. International trade. This is the cross-border flow of goods and services that links buyers and sellers. Cross-border meaning crossing the borders of different countries. So it links buyers and sellers. Foreign direct investment, which is also referred to as FDI. This is an investment that a company makes in a foreign country that creates commercial ties between the two countries. Jobs and other benefits may be brought to the second country. Okay, let's look at the next screen here. Some more parts of the global economy. Foreign exchange. Cross-border flows of money that links investors from different countries. So now we're talking about money itself. Computer networks allow investors to buy and sell securities in stock markets around the globe. We talked about this in a previous chapter of where the computer world has actually changed how business is done throughout the whole world and tied the whole world together by being able to communicate easily throughout the whole world, and quickly, I should say. And this is just one of the examples of that. Currencies such as the dollar, the euro, the Japanese yen are traded in the foreign exchange. Remember that they have set up ways to convert the value of all of those between them so that they can actually make this trade possible. Other exchanges, such as the flow of workers from one country to another, are also a part of globalization. So we're talking about workers now instead of money. Each year, millions of workers cross national borders in search of jobs and a better life. New ideas and technologies increase productivity across the globe. And I looked up an interesting fact here. In 2002 in the United States, private household employment, which includes maids, gardeners, and nannies, had the largest share of immigrant workers at 45%. So 45% of the immigrant workers in the United States were in private households. Now, I was remembering from my past, and not that far in the past, that there have been a lot of professionals that have been brought into this country, immigrated into this country, or brought in on work visas, either one, because they could fill voids in our employment niches that we didn't have enough workers for. Some of them that I have been familiar with is the top level computer workers, and also a lot of medical professionals. If you've ever gone to a clinic or a place that has several different doctors, most likely you'll run into many of them that are from foreign countries originally. So this is part of the global economy also. Institutions of globalization. Globalization is supported by many international organizations. They work to create and maintain positive economic relations between the nations. So they want to create and maintain positive economical relationships between the nations. But that doesn't always work out to be what everybody is hoping for. The policies and actions of these organizations are often controversial. Controversial means that you could argue about them back and forth. What do you think this cartoon is saying about free trade and the World Trade Organization? I thought this was an interesting cartoon here. So that's why I included it. But now the free trade and the World Trade Organization, remember we just talked about what those were. The sign that you see has free trade pointing to the left. However, the little man and the tortoise that are labeled World Trade Organization, or WTO, are going to the right. So they're saying on this cartoon that the World Trade Organization is not moving toward free trade, or at least that's what the cartoonist is saying. Whether that was the actual case or not, but that's what the cartoonist is saying. And the little man that's riding the tortoise, oh, and by the way, World Trade Organization is on the tortoise. It means it's moving very slow. But the little man that's on the tortoise says, "But you're going the wrong way." And the tortoise says, "The world is round. We'll get there." So, yeah, if you keep going around the world, eventually you'll get back to where you started, or you might get to free trade. So they're kind of making fun that the World Trade Organization is moving so slowly and possibly in the wrong direction toward free trade. Like that cartoon? Okay, a little chart that'll just help you remember these different things about global institutions. You see the global institution there on the left, and then the purpose. World Bank gives loans and grants to poorer countries to help them develop their economies. International Money Fund, which is also called IMF, gives loans, advice, and supervision to poorer countries to stabilize currencies, financial institutions, and trading relationships with other countries. Remember, stabilize means keeping them level, keeping them the same. So stabilizing currencies, money, stabilizing financial institutions, which would be like banks. Trading relationships with other countries need to be stabilized also. The World Trade Organization, WTO, this is a very highly well-known organization, establishes and enforces rules to guide and encourage free trade. According to the chart, not according to the cartoon. Too much, anyway. The United Nations, which is also called UN, establishes a forum, which means a place that you can discuss and promote global security, economic development, and social progress. So not only money-wise things, but security, so that there's policing, economic development, and social progress, so that the country grows better. The people have a better sense of their life. Benefits of globalization. We're going to talk about some of the things that the supporters say about the benefits of globalization. So supporters argue that globalization creates prosperity. Prosperity means having a good level of living. Global trade enables countries to become more efficient by specializing in the production of goods best suited to their resources. So they're going to produce goods that are going to be the best way that their country can make goods. If they have a lot of desert, there might be oil wells. That seems to go along with deserts. So they could do that. If they have a lot of green land that is not populated by cities, they might have a lot of farming. So whatever works best for their resources. In turn, efficient production encourages countries to export goods for profit. So this will give them a chance to make some money. Also, FDI, foreign direct investment, brings modern machines and equipment, technology, and business skills to poor regions of the world. Because they are poor regions of the world, often they do not have modern machines and equipment, or the right technology, or business skills that are needed to actually take advantage of the modern machines and technology. So they bring that to the poorer countries. Trade and the foreign direct investment, FDI, also bring more money into poorer economies by creating jobs. That makes sense. They bring all these machines and technology, the business skills, so that means they're going to use them to make a job. Countries collect more tax revenue when their economies grow. That means better public services can be provided. So just like in our country, our taxes go to provide a lot of the public services that we have, our roads, I'm sure you can think of some other things, but public services. So when the tax revenue grows, their public services get improved also. By opening national borders, immigrant and migrant workers have access to jobs and other opportunities. So let's look at the difference between immigrant and migrant. They're almost the same word. You can see that they're spelled very similar, except for one has an IM in front of it. So the IM means into. Migrate or migrant means somebody that migrates or moves. So immigrant, they move into, and that means they're permanently trying to move into. Migrant means just as they move there, but not necessarily to stay. They're probably not going to stay. They're probably temporary. So immigrant and migrant workers have access to jobs and other opportunities. This is why supporters argue that globalization improves living standards. Okay, that makes sense. Now, there are drawbacks of globalization. Negative effects. Globalization also has opponents that say it leads to exploitation of people and environment. Okay, exploitation is a good word to know. It's just a regular English use of the word. It's not related to economics, but let's talk about that. Exploiting something means taking an unfair advantage of it. So globalization also has opponents that say it leads to taking unfair advantage of people and the environment. They say that the profits earned through trade and investment benefit mainly the rich. So think about this. The rich are going to be the stockholders in the faraway countries. Otherwise, if you don't have money, you don't have stock. And also the privileged classes in the poorer host countries, because those are going to be the ones that actually work with bringing these investors in. And they state that this widens the gap between the poor and the rich. In addition, the pursuit of profit can blind companies to the harm they are causing in a host country. I'm sure you can think of many things that have happened when companies get large and they're in pursuit of a lot of money. They don't always take into consideration all the negative things, or they might overlook them on purpose, or they might accidentally overlook them, but there can be things that happen and the companies get blinded. That is, they don't see them. Issues include the unjust treatment or exploitation of workers and the abuse of the environment, or exploitation of the environment. See, we're using that word exploitation there. Also, opponents point to the negative effects globalization can have on employment in richer countries. So we're one of the richer countries, the United States. So we can use us as an example. When a United States company moves its production abroad, overseas, the workers in the U.S. factories may lose their jobs, and many supporting businesses to that production of the United States factory may close. So that's more people that would lose their jobs. So that actually happens, as I'm sure you all have noticed, that there's people that have lost their jobs because the company was making the products here in the United States. The company decided that it would be cheaper for them to make it in another country where the money that they have to pay to the workers and have to pay for using the resources is lower, so they're going to make more of a profit. So they move it outside of the country, and that means that the people working there in the United States don't have anything to produce anymore, so they don't have a job. Okay, so we're just going to tie this up by thinking about this. And there's no right or wrong answers to this now, of course. This is just what you think and what you feel based on not only what we've covered in this class, but also anything else that you have gained in your knowledge of the world. Do you feel that the benefits outweigh the disadvantages of globalization? So remember all those benefits we just talked about and the disadvantages we just talked about, and how do you think that works out? Do you think one is outweighs the other? How do you think that goes? What would your opinion be if you lost your job due to your company moving production to another country? Would that make a difference in how you feel about how whether the benefits or the disadvantages are bigger as far as globalization goes? Would your opinion depend on where you live? If you live in one of the poorer host countries or in one of the richer investment countries? So think about that. If you live in one of the poorer host countries, which we don't, so you have to put yourself in their shoes. Think about the way they would feel. What do you think then about the advantages or disadvantages of globalization? Would that make a difference in how you feel about it? Sometimes you have to make an opinion based more on emotions. Sometimes you want to make your opinion based more on criteria that you can prove one way or the other. A lot of people try to put both of those two together to come up with an opinion. So there's different ways you can make an opinion, and this is just asking you, what is your opinion on that? Okay, well, we're done with this lesson for this broadcast here. But what I want you to do is I want you to go through the little short quiz that I have made based on this production here. And it's not going to be hard. You know, they're always quick and easy. If you don't know the answer, look back and see what the answer is. You'll also notice that there's going to be a packet that has the same PowerPoint pages for you if you want to download them or print them out or anything like that, or if it's just easier to read them that way. You also will notice that there is going to be a copy of the textbook that we are using called Common Core Basics for Social Studies, written by McGraw-Hill Education, for this chapter there, so that you can download that or read it on your screen. It has a lot of, the information is going to be pretty much the same, but it has a lot of questions and it has a lot of exercises that will maybe help you get this stuck in your mind so that you'll remember everything really well and so you understand it. Excuse me. I also made sure that I put some pages in there that have the answer key for this book, so you can look at your exercises and then look at what our book thinks the correct answer is. Now, in class, we've noticed that we don't always agree with the answer, or we only partially agree with it. So take that into consideration. If you disagree with it, look back and make sure that you have your answer correct, and the reason for you to be disagreeing with it is actually the correct reason. But I'll be seeing you again on the next lesson. Have a good day.